Hi, I'm Madison. I once believed that if I stayed quiet, stayed helpful, they'd see me. They never did. My sister laughed when I asked for help, like I was a joke at her dinner table. She didn't know I was the one holding the strings, until I let go. If you've ever been the forgotten one, the quiet one, the one they only call when they need something, you're not alone. And one day, like me, you'll stop apologizing for walking away. Brianna laughed so loudly the entire room turned. You? Asking me for money? What a joke. Just like last Christmas. Just like Mom's birthday. I should have known. Nothing had changed. The silverware clinked against porcelain as I sat there, smile frozen, hands damp beneath the table. I had asked for $100, just enough to file some paperwork. Nothing dramatic. But her voice, sharp and performative, turned it into a spectacle. Denise's lips twitched with a restrained smile. Charles didn't even look up from his phone. I focused on my wine glass. The air in Brianna's dining room smelled like vanilla candles and money. Cold. Ornamental. Everything around her always was. The home. The wine. Her life. Madison, really? She continued, twirling her glass. If you're gonna beg, at least don't do it in front of guests. There were no guests, only family. But that made it worse. The silence thickened. I slowly pushed my chair back, the screech on the hardwood louder than her laughter. You're leaving already? Denise asked, genuinely confused. I've got what I came for, I said, almost to myself. No one followed me. No one stopped me. Outside, the porch lights glowed against her perfect lawn, the same ones I had helped install years ago. My fingers tightened around the steering wheel. I wasn't even angry. Just tired. Why did I ask? Because some part of me, some desperate shard, still wanted to believe they saw me, that I mattered. They didn't. I knew that now. Even as Brianna flaunted wealth she didn't earn, they treated her like royalty. All while I stayed invisible. But not anymore. I reached into the glove box and pulled out the slim black folder. Aunt Margaret's will. Original. Unaltered. The one Brianna had demanded to see at the funeral, screaming that there had to be a mistake. There wasn't. You're not in it. The lawyer had told her. Cold. Final. She'd accused me of forging documents, threatened legal action, but the paper held. I'd left it all untouched. Even when I lost my job. Even when I skipped meals. Even when I sat alone at night, lights off, wondering if the silence would swallow me whole. I never spent $1. Not out of nobility. Out of fear. Out of hope. That maybe one day they'd see me? They won't. Even the housekeeper had once said, "You always give, Miss Madison. One day, keep something for yourself." That day was now. I turned on the engine. The soft rumble filled the car. My chest felt hollow, but my mind was sharper than it had been in years. I won't forget this. I whispered it just before I walked away. Brianna had paused, caught off guard, unsure why it didn't sound like a plea. But a warning. That night, in her car, Madison opened her banking app. The screen loads $3,528,942.12. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I opened my laptop and called the lawyer. I won't forget this. And I didn't. Not a word. Not a gesture. My apartment was quiet, the way I liked it. Bare walls, clean lines, and not a speck out of place. A small space on the 10th floor downtown, tucked between the noise of the city and the silence I'd cultivated for years. Outside, Los Angeles moved in its endless blur, but in here, time slowed. Everything was deliberate. I sat cross-legged on the couch, the glow of my laptop casting pale light on the coffee table. The trust document lay open beside me, printed and annotated. I had read it at least 30 times. I knew every line, every clause within the clause. The language was airtight. Margaret had made sure of that. I clicked the Zoom link. Mr. Conway appeared within seconds. Same neatly parted gray hair, same calm, clipped tone. His tie was maroon today. "Miss Doyle," he greeted. "I presume this isn't a social call?" "No," I replied. "I need confirmation. Again." He didn't blink. "Of course. As trustee of the Margaret Doyle Trust, you hold full legal authority over all assets. There are no secondary beneficiaries. Your parents and sister were not named." "And they can't contest that?" He leaned slightly forward. "They may try, but the terms are irrevocable. Your aunt anticipated resistance." That sounded like her. I nodded and opened my banking dashboard. My hands didn't shake. Not anymore. I initiated a small transfer, $1,000, from the trust into a personal account I'd quietly opened under a different name. The screen loaded. Approved. It was done. I leaned back. For a moment, I just listened. To the hum of the refrigerator, the faint rush of wind outside. It felt louder than Brianna's laughter. A text buzzed across my phone. "Nora, if you're about to set the house on fire, I'll bring marshmallows." I smirked. Nora always knew when something was coming. We'd grown up a few streets apart. She'd seen firsthand the little ways Brianna chipped away at me. Mockery disguised as jokes. Public digs dressed up as sisterly concern. Nora never forgot a single one. "Mr. Conway," I said slowly, "did Margaret ever say why?" His eyes softened, just slightly. "She always said you were the only one who never asked for anything, and the only one who truly deserved everything." I didn't speak. I just let the words settle in the space between us. After the call ended, I stared at the folder again. Margaret had always been distant from the family. Polite, formal, uninterested in their drama. But with me, she was different. Quiet weekends at her cabin. Mornings with tea instead of judgment. She had seen me when no one else did. I picked up my phone and began deleting. One by one, Brianna's old messages vanished. Snide comments, hollow birthday texts, passive-aggressive reminders that I was expected to show up and be quiet. Each deletion felt like a stitch being removed from a wound that had never quite healed right. No more records. No more evidence of me trying to belong where I wasn't wanted. I checked my calendar. Friday, 3 p.m., First National Bank. The appointment was locked in. I would move the bulk of the assets, quietly, officially, irrevocably. No more waiting. No more hoping they would change. Just action. My eyes lingered on the screen. I didn't feel rage, not even satisfaction. Just a deep, steady sense of clarity. She stares at her screen. Friday, 3 p.m., First National Bank. No turning back. "They froze the system," the bank manager asserted. "We've never seen a request like this before." Brianna once bragged about having her own banker. Now she's begging for access. The marble floors gleamed under my heels as I stepped into the First National Bank. It was quiet. Too quiet. Like the air before a summer thunderstorm. Everything about the place screamed elegance. Curved glass walls, soft piano music floating from hidden speakers, and gold-plated signage designed to soothe egos. I approached the counter without hesitation, handed over my ID, and unfolded the original trust documents from a slim leather folder. My nails tapped a patient rhythm on the marble as the manager scanned each page. His nameplate read, Nathaniel Monroe, Executive Services. He had the look of someone used to catering to old money. When he read my name and then the amount on the request, his brow twitched. "You're requesting a full withdrawal of the Doyle Trust. $3.5 million, he said. I nodded once. "Any changes to secondary access?" "Yes," I said. "Revoke all of them." His fingers moved swiftly over the keyboard, expression tightening. "The system requires a fraud prevention freeze," he murmured. "Just a temporary protocol. We've never seen a request like this before." I didn't flinch. "Initiate it." As he typed, my eyes drifted to the waiting area behind the frosted glass wall. I noticed a woman in oversized sunglasses and nude heels storming through the revolving door. Loud, fast steps on hard floor. Brianna. She was on the phone, clearly mid-rant. Her voice echoed just enough. Something about missing funds, unresponsive accounts, and why the hell is this happening? I turned slightly, just enough to catch her eye as she stepped into the lobby. Her eyes widened. It took her a second to realize where she was and who was already here. Oh my God, Madison? She blinked, stepped forward, then laughed in disbelief. What are you doing here? I didn't answer. Brianna marched up to the adjacent teller, tossed her bag on the counter like a queen demanding tribute. I need to access the Doyle Trust account. I've been having trouble all day. The teller glanced at Mr. Monroe, then at me. The manager spoke first. Miss Doyle, he said gently, you no longer have access. Per trustee authorization, all secondary rights have been revoked. She blinked. I'm sorry. What? She's the sole trustee, he continued, gesturing toward me. As of today, you are no longer authorized to interact with or draw from these funds. The silence between us cracked like a pane of glass under pressure. Brianna laughed, high and shrill. Number, that's wrong. That's not possible. I've used this account for years. Used, I said quietly. Past tense. She spun toward me. You can't do this. Mom and Dad have no claim, I said, meeting her eyes. You never did. She gasped, staggering slightly before collapsing into the velvet armchair behind her. She clutched her purse to her chest like it might contain the explanation, or the power, or the escape. For the first time, I saw it. Realization dawning in her face like ice flooding her veins. The money was never hers. It never had been. Behind the counters, the staff exchanged glances. One of them discreetly reached for her phone. I didn't need to look. I already knew what was happening. Someone was recording. The kind of scandal that didn't stay private for long. And sure enough, a buzz came through my own phone minutes later. TikTok. Trending. $3.5 million sister drama at First National? I smiled, small and private. As the account updated behind the scenes, I took out my own phone and wired a portion, $250,000, to a charity I had quietly established 6 months ago. The Margaret Foundation for women abandoned by the very people meant to protect them. Brianna was still shaking, her lipstick smudged, her voice wobbling as she whispered to no one in particular. She can't do this. Can she? I turned toward the exit, pausing as the doors slid open. This? I said quietly, without looking back. This was just the beginning. She's lying, Brianna screamed across the room. She manipulated Aunt Margaret. She stole from us. Just like at the funeral, her voice rang out, desperate and shrill, trying to force chaos into a shape that looked like control. It hadn't worked then. It wouldn't work now. The Doyle living room hadn't changed in years. Over-decorated, over-scented, and overcompensating. Fall leaves garlanded the mantelpiece, but there was no warmth in the air. Just carefully arranged tension and flickering candlelight. I walked in and was met by silence, the kind that sucked all the air out of the room. Charles sat stiffly at the head of the table, arms crossed. Denise perched beside him, a stack of papers, probably printed emails and social media comments, clutched tight in one manicured hand. Brianna stood, pacing like a tethered animal. Let's begin, I said, setting my folder down. Calm, clinical. Denise narrowed her eyes. We're here because you've caused a scandal, Madison. You humiliated your sister. Your family. You mean the family who laughed when I asked for help? My tone never rose. The family who never asked why I was struggling? Just assumed I was failing? Brianna slammed her palm against the table. You used Aunt Margaret. She was old. She was sick. She was coherent. I cut in, unfolding the first document. And deliberate. You'd know that if you'd visited her more than twice in 10 years. You don't deserve a cent. Denise spat, her voice sharp and brittle. You've never contributed anything to this family. Nothing. I stared at her for a moment. then reached into my bag and placed a small speaker on the table. Click! Aunt Margaret's voice filled the room, raspy but strong. Only Madison ever cared. Only she deserves this. She never asked for anything. She listened. She stayed. The room fell into a stunned hush. Charles leaned forward. What is this? A recording, dated 6 months before her death. Verified by Mr. Conway. Right on cue, the speaker crackled again. Good evening, everyone, came Mr. Conway's calm, measured tone. Per Madison Doyle's request, I'm here to confirm that she is the sole trustee of Margaret Doyle's estate, per the original trust document. It was finalized with full mental competency. There is no evidence, legal or anecdotal, of coercion. Denise looked like she'd been slapped. Brianna stammered. That doesn't prove... You could have edited that. That voice could have been... It wasn't, Mr. Conway continued. All recordings are archived on our firm's secure servers. Additionally, there are 2 witnesses and notarized logs. The silence turned heavier. Then Charles leaned forward, fury blooming across his face. So, you've been lying to us? All these years? I didn't flinch. Number, I've just been surviving. He went quiet. They all did. Then Brianna snapped. You don't get to act like some martyr. You ambushed us. You made us look like fools. I turned my eyes to her. You did that all on your own. She screamed and lunged toward me, eyes wide, mouth open. But before she could close the gap, someone moved from the hallway. Nora. She stepped in like a shadow turning solid, voice low and sharp. Touch her, and I swear I'll bury your reputation in one TikTok. By morning, the video had 4.7 million views, and Brianna's name was trending for all the wrong reasons. She was sobbing in Chanel, grainy footage looping across every platform. She stole from us, she had shrieked, mascara streaking, voice cracking. And then, Nora, stepping in like she owned the room, the threat slicing clean through the static. Touch her, and I swear I'll bury your reputation in one TikTok. No music, no filter, just raw, viral fury. I watched it from my couch, coffee in hand, blanket draped over my legs like a shield. The world had tilted overnight, and somehow I wasn't the one on the floor anymore. Nora was already texting me when the segment hit Morning Current. Your sister's crying again. Want a clip? I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The silence was comfortable now. She understood. My inbox was another story. Reporters, commentators, lawyers, strangers claiming to be on my side like this was a war, and I was their new general. I didn't respond. Not yet. I scrolled past another tagged post. # Doyle downfall. By noon, my phone hadn't stopped buzzing. I turned it face down and sat in the quiet. Let it all buzz without me. Nora showed up around 2. Iced coffee in one hand, PR plan in the other. They're eating her alive, she said cheerfully, dropping onto the couch beside me. So, you want to stay quiet and let them starve or feed them something real? I raised an eyebrow. You're enjoying this. Absolutely, she grinned. But you need to control the narrative. Say something before they say everything. We agreed on one interview. Just one. She booked me on The First Thread, a podcast known for calm human stories. Not clickbait. No theatrics, no viral sound bites. Just truth. The recording studio was minimalist. No cameras, no producers shouting directions. Just a mic, a soft chair, and a host who didn't interrupt. I never wanted revenge, I said simply when she asked the inevitable. I wanted space, and they kept shoving me into corners. I told the story plainly, not dramatically, not to be pitied, just told it. About the birthdays ignored, the asks that became accusations, the quiet decision to stop apologizing for surviving on my own terms. By the end of the episode, the host's voice shook just a little. Thank you, she whispered, for being honest. After that, things moved quickly. The former housekeeper, Mrs. Alvarado, spoke to Daily Junction. Her words lit a different kind of fire. "Only Madison ever said thank you," she said on record. "Only she treated me like a person. Brianna used to leave me notes in all caps, never once called me by my name." The comments exploded. Old neighbors chimed in. Former teachers. A professor from UC Irvine remembered me tutoring kids who couldn't afford prep classes. No one had asked for this. They offered it on their own. Charles and Denise were spotted leaving a wine bar near Melrose, harassed by questions. "Did you know the will? Are you siding with Brianna? Why isn't Madison in your statements?" They didn't answer, just ducked into an SUV with tinted windows, looking smaller than I remembered. Brianna, meanwhile, had gone full scorched earth, posting video apologies, then deleting them, releasing screenshots that proved nothing. Rumors swirled about endorsements pulling out, about Blake, her husband, staying with his parents out of state. I didn't comment on any of it. Nora fielded offers, scheduled things, shut things down. She handled chaos like it owed her rent. And I finally slept through the night. Until my phone lit up. A new notification. Legal action filed. Brianna Doyle vs. Madison Doyle. I sighed. So it begins. In the courtroom, Brianna wore pearls. I wore clarity. The sunlight that filtered through the courthouse windows felt like something final. Cold, stark, honest. The kind of light that didn't flatter. It revealed. The room smelled faintly of old paper and fresh polish, with quiet murmurs echoing off stone walls and heavy wood. She sat across from me, spine too straight, hands too tightly clasped in her lap. The pearls at her neck shimmered under the fluorescence, but they couldn't hide the fatigue in her face. Her foundation cracked at the edges, just like her case. The judge called us to order. The room shifted into stillness. I rose when prompted, approached the bench with steady steps. No theatrics, no grand gestures. I handed over the documents, scanned originals, dates, notarizations, the full audio logs, all neatly filed. Mr. Conway had reviewed everything again the night before, but I didn't need him here today. Not anymore. Across the aisle, her lawyer adjusted his tie and mumbled a few disjointed phrases about emotional strain and possible influence. The judge raised an eyebrow. "Do you have evidence of coercion, counselor?" A pause. A dry throat. "No, Your Honor." I sat down. The room seemed to exhale. The gavel came down like punctuation. "This case is dismissed. Trustee Madison Doyle's legal claim stands. There is no basis for further action." Just like that, it was over. Reporters outside stirred, but I stayed seated a moment longer. The judge had already moved on, but my body needed a minute to catch up. The weight hadn't lifted. It had simply moved, settled into something that no longer required carrying. As we exited the courtroom, a younger lawyer approached me. "Would you like to pursue a defamation counterclaim? Given the media fallout, you'd likely—" I smiled, soft but firm. "No need. Her actions already cost her everything." He blinked, then nodded, stepping aside. Outside, cameras clicked, microphones rose. I walked past them without stopping, until a woman with a local news badge called out, "Ms. Doyle, do you have a statement?" I paused. Then, just loud enough, "Legacy is what you leave behind when you stop trying to prove yourself." That was it. No spin, no burn, just truth. Later that week, the Margaret Foundation went public. Donations poured in, many from women with stories that echoed mine. Some anonymous, some tearful, all real. Nora handled the launch with quiet brilliance. I stayed out of the spotlight, as planned. Denise and Charles said nothing. No calls, no apology, just silence. That was its own answer. Brianna disappeared from the news cycle. One podcast tried to interview her. She canceled. She'd become a cautionary tale, not a headline. And me? I drove upstate on Sunday. Alone. The cemetery was quiet, wind brushing through the maple trees like someone exhaling slowly. I found her plot. Clean, simple, no drama. I knelt and placed a single white rose on the granite. They finally heard me, Aunt Em. You were right. The courtroom didn't erupt. It simply settled, like justice sliding quietly into its rightful place. Brianna's pearls couldn't shield her from the collapse, and the silence of Denise and Charles spoke louder than any verdict. Sometimes, the deepest revenge isn't fury. It's the unwavering dignity of truth revealed at the right moment. Like the final chord of a long-forgotten melody, justice may arrive late, but it resonates powerfully once it's heard. Because when silence ends, so does control.